Yeah, so my name is Ryan. Some people call me Ra. Some people call me Dinga. Some people call me Jean Wu. These are the last two names. One of them I was given in Cameroon from a grandmother with glaucoma. So I don't know how she was really seeing me, but maybe seeing me on another level. That name means the strong tree in the compound that other trees root to grow. And Janwu means mountain goat, from the Tlingit, actually, in Alaska. One of my kupuna there gave me that name, because the goats run up to the top of the mountain, and then they look, and they see what's there on top of the glacier. But my birth name is Ryan, and I was born in Boston to an Irish father, half Irish, half German, and an Ashkenazi mother from France and Poland, and just diasporic. And yeah, that's where I'm from.
Great. And can you talk a little bit about your path in your life, leading us to what your path is currently?
Yeah.
And if you had a moment where you kind of felt like, oh, I think this is what I'm meant to do, or maybe there was someone who helped, who suggested that this was your path. If you could just talk us a little bit about that.
I studied finance and history. And basically, through my experience at university, I decided that I wanted to go and study abroad. And I was on the Division I baseball team and realized that wasn't my dream. That was my parents' dream for me. So I quit the team, and then I decided to move to Hong Kong when I was 20 years old. And I studied Chinese philosophy, and from that point, I traveled around mainland China, I traveled to Singapore, I traveled to Thailand, I traveled to Malaysia. And when I came back to Boston, people said, oh, if you feel weird, you have reverse culture shock. And I said, no, I have reverse lack of culture shock. This is strange. And so I was in Boston for another semester, and then I decided, to push all my credits to another university abroad in Spain. And I finished up in Spain, and I moved to Cameroon, to a village named Bali Niga, close to the border of Nigeria. And that was basically where my entire life shifted. Because everything that I learned in school, I slowly learned was from a specific perspective. And that perspective was what we called coloniality, the ongoing patterns of a dominant worldview that are rooted in the systems that we live within. And when I was in Cameroon, I'd be with the farmers out in the villages and drinking palm wine and dancing and learning and doing all this stuff. And it came to my attention that the majority of things I had learned in school, I actually didn't know. They were just facts from a book. And where am I going to apply these things? They don't grow food. They don't know how to hunt. I don't know how to hunt. I didn't know how to do anything that was very human. And there was just this interesting thing where I questioned education and the whole process of education until the point where I recognized that I didn't know anything, And that's when I actually started to know something. And I ended up coming out to Hawaii after a really beautiful spiritual experience in Israel. And I came out to Hawaii, to the west side in Waianae. And I met my first two spiritual teachers there, this man named Surya Kumar and this man named Jesus Puerto. And Jesus really helped me out in my mind a lot, because I'd be talking and he'd be like, how do you know that what you're saying is true? I was like, well, I read it. He's like, how do you know that they know that that's true? Or I would say a word and he says, do you know what that word means? I was like, no. He's like, why are you saying it? And after multiple weeks, I couldn't speak because I realized that everything I was saying wasn't from my own experience. It was a claim that I had from someone else. And then Surya was like, go, travel. You can't stay here. I would love you to stay here, but you can't. You have to go travel. You have a lot of things to do in the world. So I just took off. And I traveled for the next 13 years around the world, which is a long time. And I'm not talking about traveling like going to Cancun, you know. I'm talking about traveling like living in monasteries and taking trains through India to different places and going in Ghana and doing all this sort of stuff, you know. Bourdain has a quote that's, traveling is education for life. It's not leisure. It's not luxury. And that was my university, you know. That was my second time at university. I'm still in it. Different grade, different level. But that's what really started to inform my path, because I was brought in to the world with a specific worldview. And I was taught that, it was validated, it was reinforced. And then I started to meet all these other indigenous or original peoples, uncles, aunties, grandmas, grandpas, and they had an entirely different way of knowing. And then at a certain point, I saw myself in between both worldviews. I wasn't really that anymore, and I wasn't that yet. But really, it's not about achieving either, it's about balancing both. And so after a while, I started to begin to comprehend that there was a reason why I'd been traveling for so long. And the reason, with my background and my education in business and all this other stuff, the economic system is rooted in the dominant worldview, so it continues to create oppression and it continues to create systemic inequality because it's rooted in a worldview that's out of sync with nature, based on the Western unholy trinity, as it's called: separability, mechanization, and reductionism. So whatever that unholy trinity is, you got to form a new one, you know? But you need to know how to transition those things. So I started to learn in my own way, through my own path, a map of how to do that. A cartography of my own journey, which I then now share so that others might have some nodes of trail markers, if you will, to help them navigate these times that we're in, which are very liminal. So that's kind of how I got on the path. I mean, I think Surya kind of like kicked me, you know, like, get on the path. But I had to keep walking, you know. So I kept walking, and now all of a sudden I get it, because like I get something. It took me a long time to synthesize everything. And it's just building on itself and decomposing itself all the time. And now I essentially act as a depth education consultant and educator. Depth education being you question the worldview of which your answers are even coming from. So it's a meta-relational, intelligent way of educating. So that you don't just judge a book by its cover and read through the book. You ask who informed the author of the book. You know, what lineage was that author raised in to write a book like that? And why do I accept that as the only way that books are written? Why don't I read books from African philosophers? Why don't I read poetry from Nepali poets? Why am I reading books from Western white scientists all the time? Like, why is that the books that I see? So questioning these meta-relational intelligent ways is essentially the work that I do now. And I work in subverting those things back into animacy. How do you work with the original principles and protocols of nature that are transmuted through indigenous people's ways of knowing, and work with that to assist this system from discontinuing humanity at this time?